The explosion that changed everything wasn't supposed to happen during a graduation ceremony, but when the smoke cleared at Coronado Naval Base, California, everyone would discover that the quiet woman in the third row wasn't just another proud mother. She was a ghost from the most classified missions in military history. Maria Santos, 45, sat perfectly still as chaos erupted around her. The ceremonial cannon had misfired, sending debris flying into the crowd. While others screamed and ran, she moved like lightning. In 3 seconds flat, she had assessed the wounded, prioritized casualties, and was already applying pressure to a severed artery on a fallen photographer. Her son Diego Santos stood frozen among the other Navy SEAL graduates. He watched his mother, the quiet hospital administrator who raised him alone after his father died in Syria, move with the precision of a combat veteran. Her hands worked wounds like she'd done it 1,000 times before. Because she had. "Who the hell is that woman?" barked Master Chief Torres, the ceremony commander, as he watched Maria coordinate the medical response with military efficiency that left the base's own medics following her orders. What Diego didn't know, what nobody knew, was that his mother had once been Staff Sergeant Maria Phoenix Santos, the most decorated female combat medic in Special Operations history. For 8 years, she had run with Delta Force and SEAL Team 6 on missions so classified they didn't officially exist. The ambulances arrived, but Maria was already moving to the next casualty. She had tourniqueted 2 limbs, stabilized a head trauma, and directed the evacuation of 17 wounded civilians, all while wearing a sundress and sandals. Master Chief Torres approached her as the dust settled. Something about her movement, her voice commands, the way she held herself under pressure, it was familiar. Too familiar. "Ma'am, are you military?" Maria looked up from bandaging a child's scraped knee, her eyes meeting his for the first time. For just a moment, her carefully constructed civilian mask slipped. Torres saw something that made his blood run cold. "Mogadishu," he whispered. "Firebase Echo, you were there." Maria's hands never stopped working, but her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "You're mistaken." But Torres wasn't mistaken. He had been a young ranger in Somalia, 2011. His unit had been pinned down for 16 hours by insurgent fire. The official report said they were extracted by a helicopter crew. What they didn't say was that someone had crossed 2 miles of hostile territory on foot, eliminated 12 enemy combatants, and single-handedly evacuated 23 wounded soldiers. Someone the locals started calling La Fantasma, the ghost. "Phoenix," he said. "You're Phoenix." Diego heard the name from across the field. Phoenix. He'd never heard that word associated with his mother, but something about it made every nerve in his body stand at attention. The graduation ceremony resumed, but everything had changed. As the new SEALs received their tridents, Torres kept watching Maria. She had melted back into the crowd, but he could see her now, the way she scanned for threats, positioned herself with clear exit routes, maintained tactical awareness while appearing completely relaxed. When Diego's name was called, Maria felt her chest tighten. Pride and terror warred in her heart. She had hoped he would choose a different path, something safe, something that wouldn't lead him into the darkness where she had lived for so many years. But as he accepted his trident, she saw something else. He had his father's courage and her tactical mind. Maybe he was meant for this life. After the ceremony, Torres didn't let it go. He approached Maria directly, Diego at his side. "Ma'am, I need to know. Are you Maria Santos, formerly Staff Sergeant Santos, 75th Ranger Regiment, attached to classified special operations?" Maria looked at her son, seeing the confusion and growing suspicion in his eyes. 20 years of carefully maintained secrets hung in the balance. "Diego," she said quietly, "we need to talk." What she told him over the next hour rewrote his entire understanding of his childhood. The business trips that lasted for weeks, deep cover missions in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Yemen. The nightmares she claimed were from her hospital work, combat stress from operations that had killed hundreds of enemy combatants and saved thousands of Allied lives. The scars she said came from a car accident, shrapnel, from a roadside bomb, in Kandahar. The Phoenix program, Torres explained when Maria nodded for him to continue, was the military's most successful deep infiltration unit. Your mother didn't just serve with special forces, she led them. She has more confirmed kills than any sniper in Navy SEAL history, and more lives saved than any combat medic ever recorded. Diego stared at his mother. The woman who wouldn't let me play violent video games was a professional killer? "I wasn't a killer," Maria said firmly. "I was a protector. Everything I did was to make sure soldiers like you could come home to their families." But there was more Torres hadn't said. More that Maria hoped would stay buried forever. There's something else, Torres continued, his voice dropping. The Phoenix program was shut down because of Operation Nightfall. What happened in Syria wasn't just a rescue mission. It was the deepest anyone had ever penetrated enemy territory. Your mother spent 3 months undercover in ISIS-controlled territory, feeding intelligence back to Allied forces. When her cover was blown, she fought her way out through 200 miles of hostile desert. Alone. Maria's jaw tightened. That's classified. Not anymore, Torres said, pulling out his phone. The Pentagon declassified the Phoenix files last month. Your mother is about to become the most famous unknown soldier in American history. Diego felt the ground shifting beneath his feet. Dad, what happened to Dad? Maria closed her eyes. This was the part she had prayed would never come. Your father was Captain Luis Santos, Delta Force. He was captured during Operation Nightfall. I had to choose, maintain my cover and complete the mission, or blow my position to try to save him. The silence stretched for an eternity. I chose the mission. I chose to save 400 American soldiers over saving my husband, over saving your father. Diego's world imploded. His mother wasn't just a hidden warrior. She was the reason his father was dead. The intelligence your mother gathered, Torres said gently, prevented the largest terrorist attack on American soil since 9/11. She saved hundreds of thousands of civilian lives. But the cost was everything, Maria finished. I lost your father, I lost my identity, I lost myself. I became Maria Santos, hospital administrator, single mother. I buried Phoenix so deep I hoped she would never surface again. But Phoenix was surfacing now. The base commander had arrived, along with a Pentagon liaison. Word was spreading through military channels. The ghost of Mogadishu, the Phoenix of Syria, was not only alive, but had been hiding in plain sight for 20 years. Ma'am, the Pentagon liaison said formally, the Secretary of Defense would like to speak with you. I'm retired, Maria replied. Ma'am, with respect, people like you don't retire. You just wait for the next mission. Diego looked between his mother and the officials surrounding them. What's happening? The liaison glanced at Maria, who nodded slowly. Son, there's a situation developing in Venezuela. American hostages, including military personnel. The rescue mission requires someone with your mother's specific skill set. Deep cover infiltration, indigenous language fluency, and extraction under impossible odds. She's the only operative who successfully completed this type of mission. Absolutely not, Diego said immediately. She's been out for 20 years. She's not going back to that life. But Maria was already thinking tactically. How many hostages? 12, including 3 Navy SEALs from your son's graduating class. The words hit Diego like a physical blow. His new teammates, his brothers, were already in danger. Maria stood slowly. When do we leave? Mom, no, you can't. I won't let you. She turned to face her son, and for the first time, he saw Phoenix looking back at him instead of his mother. Diego, I trained you your entire life for this moment without you knowing it. Every camping trip where I taught you to track, every game where we practiced hand-to-hand combat, every language lesson I made you take, it was all preparation. Not for you to follow in my footsteps, but for you to understand them. I won't lose you too, he said. You won't lose me, but if I don't go, you'll lose your teammates, and I didn't raise you to abandon your brothers. The Pentagon liaison cleared his throat. Ma'am, there's one more thing. The hostage situation, it's not random. The terrorists specifically demanded you in exchange for the prisoners. They know who you are. They know about Phoenix. Maria's blood went cold. That's impossible. My identity was buried. Someone talked. Someone who knew about Operation Nightfall. They're calling you out, Phoenix. They want you to come to them. Diego grabbed his mother's arm. It's a trap. It's obviously a trap. Of course it's a trap, Maria replied. That's why it'll work. Over the next 6 hours, Maria transformed back into Phoenix. The process was terrifying to watch. The gentle woman who had raised Diego disappeared, replaced by a tactical killing machine with 20 years of suppressed training flooding back into muscle memory. She requisitioned gear, studied satellite imagery, and planned infiltration routes with the cold precision of a chess master planning 20 moves ahead. Diego watched his mother become someone he had never met, but somehow always known was there. I'm going with you, he announced. Absolutely not. You trained me for this, remember? Your entire childhood program was preparation? Then prepare me for this. The mission briefing was classified beyond anything Diego had clearance for, but Phoenix pulled strings that reached all the way to the Pentagon. For the first time in 20 years, She was calling in favors from people who owed their lives to her ghost operations. The plan was insane. A mother-son team would infiltrate Venezuelan territory, locate the hostages, and extract them without backup or official support. If they were caught, the U.S. government would deny all knowledge of the operation. "Why?" Diego asked, as they prepared to board the transport plane. "Why are you really doing this?" Maria checked her weapon one final time. "Because your teammates need me. Because I'm the only one who can bring them home. And because Phoenix has been sleeping for 20 years. Maybe it's time she remembered why she existed in the first place." The plane lifted off into darkness, carrying a legendary ghost back to war, and a young SEAL into his first real mission. Neither of them knew that the terrorists waiting in Venezuela had a personal connection to Operation Nightfall, or that this rescue mission was actually revenge, 20 years in the making. As the aircraft crossed into hostile airspace, Maria turned to her son. "Whatever happens down there, remember this. You are not responsible for my choices. Your father died because of my decision. If something happens to me, it's because of my decision. You carry your own honor, not mine." "Nothing's going to happen," Diego replied, "because I'm not letting Phoenix fight alone anymore." For the first time in 2 decades, Maria smiled the way Phoenix used to, like a predator who had just spotted her prey. The war was about to come full circle. And this time, the Phoenix would not be rising from ashes alone. The transport plane disappeared into the South American night, carrying a legend back to life and a son into the fire that forged his mother. Neither the Venezuelan jungle nor the terrorists waiting there were prepared for what was coming. Phoenix was no longer hiding, and she was no longer alone. But in the darkness below, someone else was waiting. Someone who remembered Mogadishu, who remembered Syria, and who had spent 20 years planning revenge against the ghost who had killed his brother and disappeared without a trace. The mission was about to become something much more personal than a rescue operation. It was about to become a reckoning. And in the Venezuelan jungle, under a moonless sky, the most dangerous game of cat and mouse in special operations history was about to begin.